Welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is, well, it's pretty ambitious. We are taking a massive stack of Ethical Hacker Pro training modules, the quizzes, and this highly visual slide deck, and we're going to completely decode wireless security infrastructure.
Right, and we aren't just memorizing textbook definitions here. We are going to architect a hypothetical breach from the ground up.
Yeah, exactly. Getting right inside that attacker mindset to understand, exactly how wireless networks are compromised. We're going to go through the source material slide by slide so you can follow along with the visuals, lock these concepts in, and totally dominate the exam.
Because to truly secure infrastructure, you have to stop looking at your network as just a static diagram. You have to start viewing it as a living, breathing attack surface.
Yeah.
You have to anticipate the tooling, understand the physics of radio frequencies, and really see the vulnerabilities that most administrators completely ignore.
It's a totally different mindset. So, to set the stage for this hypothetical breach, let's start with slide 1, titled Ethical Hacker Pro, Decoding Wireless Security. This introduces the core vulnerability of our target. We are dealing with an unbounded data communication system.
Unbounded being the operative word.
Right. Because unlike a wired network where an attacker physically needs to find an Ethernet port to plug into, wireless data it doesn't stop at the drywall.
What's fascinating here is the sheer physics of that trade-off. I mean, you are trading the inherent physical isolation of a copper wire with the operational flexibility of mobility.
Which we all want. We want to walk around with our laptops.
Exactly. But because those radio waves propagate freely, your corporate data is literally bleeding out into the hallway.
Yeah.
It's going down into the lobby and right out into the public parking lot. You are fundamentally broadcasting your network to anyone who bothers to listen.
Which completely changes the paradigm of a perimeter. So if you're following along and studying this material, I want you to think about your own physical environment right now.
Evaluate the risk for a second. If a structural physical wall no longer bounds your data, how does that shift your entire strategic approach to perimeter defense?
Because you really can't just put a security guard at the front door anymore. The rules have completely changed.
Your perimeter is now invisible. It's highly malleable. And that brings us to the actual hardware bridging that invisible gap.
Okay, let's unpack this by moving to slide 2, titled Building the Foundation. Access points. If our attacker is going to breach the network, they need an entry point.
They need a door.
Right. And the access point, or AP, is the literal bridge translating those airborne radio wave into wired Ethernet frames. Now, the slide outlines 2 implementations. First, you've got hardware-based APs, which are your physical standalone devices, and then software-based APs, or virtual Wi-Fi, which use a computer's existing wireless card configured through software to act as the bridge.
Right.
But I have to ask, why would an enterprise rely on a software-based AP when physical routers are so ubiquitous and cheap?
Well, it comes down to resource allocation. And this is a very common scenario you'll see on the exam, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If the quiz intel presents a 12-person startup needing wireless access on a highly restricted budget, deploying a software-based access point is the tactically correct answer.
Because you don't have to buy new gear.
Exactly. It leverages existing server hardware without the capital expenditure of buying enterprise-grade physical APs.
That makes total sense. But there is a massive hacker trap the exam writers use here on this slide. You cannot confuse an access point with a range extender.
No, do not fall for that.
I always think of the megaphone analogy here. A range extender is just a device holding a megaphone. It captures a signal and shouts it further down the hall. It doesn't process or bridge the data to the wired backbone.
It just repeats the noise.
Exactly. An access point is the actual toll booth to the wired network.
And the exam will absolutely test your precision on that exact distinction. An extender expands the physical footprint, but the AT is the gateway. And speaking of how that gateway announces itself to the world,
That perfectly transitions us. Now we're on slide 3, titled Public Names versus Internal Identities. Our attacker in the parking lot needs to identify a target.
they have to know what they're aiming at.
Right. This slide displays a typical router configuration page highlighting the SSID, the Service Set Identifier. That's the 32-character public broadcast name. Think of it as the neon bluebonnet sign on a storefront in the visual. But then there's the host name, the internal identifier, like a CorpNet label on a back-office file cabinet. They serve totally different functions.
And here is where administrators make a critical, almost universal mistake, which is a huge hacker trap on the exam: turning off SSID broadcasting.
Oh, man. People do this all the time.
All the time. The logic seems sound right. If I hide the neon sign, the attacker won't know the store is there. It's the classic security through obscurity fallacy.
But wait, if hiding the SSID actually causes security issues, why is a toggle still a standard feature on almost every enterprise router?
Mostly just for legacy compatibility and reducing visual clutter for end users, but from security standpoint, it's disastrous.
How so?
When you hide the SSID, the router stops announcing itself. But your authorized devices, the CEO's laptop, the employee smartphones, they still need to connect. So instead of the router passively broadcasting, your mobile devices are forced to actively scream into the void. They are constantly sending probe requests asking, is the hidden network here? Is it here?
So the devices themselves become the beacons.
Exactly. Anyone sitting nearby with a basic packet sniffer like Wireshark will intercept those probe requests. You haven't hidden your network. You've just shifted the broadcast burden to thousands of roaming devices, advertising your hidden network's exact name everywhere those devices travel.
That's wild.
So I want you to synthesize this concept for a moment. Why does attempting security through obscurity, like hiding an SSID, almost always backfire and create these unintended vulnerabilities?
It's because you're fighting the fundamental design of the protocol. The system wants to connect. Now, how far those probe requests travel depends entirely on the hardware, which brings us to our next point. Let's look at slide 4, titled The Antenna Arsenal.
The physical gear.
Right. Our attacker isn't using a standard laptop antenna. Let's visualize the 3 types shown here so you can easily identify them on the test. First, the dipole. It's a straight horizontal rod with loops. Think of it essentially as a bare light bulb radiating omnidirectionally in a massive circle.
Very common.
Then second, the Yagi. This is a main rod with several parallel metal prongs sticking out of it. It acts like a flashlight, focusing a directional high-gain beam. And finally, the parabolic, which is a curved metal dish. This is your laser pointer, offering the highest directivity for point-to-point links.
And choosing the right antenna dictates your physical attack surface. If a network engineer lazily slaps an omnidirectional dipole antenna on a building just to connect an annex across the street, they are needlessly bleeding that signal in a 360-degree radius.
Right into the parking lot.
Right. An attacker can sit a mile down the road with a high-gain Yaki antenna, point it directly at your building, and easily catch that bleeding signal. You're handing them the keys simply because you don't focus the beam.
So let's assume our attacker caught the signal. Now they face the encryption. Moving to slide 5, titled The Shield. Wireless encryption evolution. We have 3 distinct stages to memorize here. Stage 1 is WEP, wired equivalent privacy, visualized as a rusted lock.
Very rusted.
Yeah. WEP relied on the RC4 cipher and a mathematically tiny 24-bit initialization vector, or 5e.
And that tiny IV was its absolute death sentence. On a busy network, a 24-bit IV exhausts its unique combinations in minutes. The system is forced to reuse them.
And then the attacker pounces.
Exactly. An attacker simply captures enough packets, finds the repeating IVs, and mathematically reverse engineers the static root key. WP can be cracked in less than 10 minutes today. It is entirely obsolete.
Which led to stage 2, WPA, Wi-Fi protected access. The slide shows this as a cracked padlock. It was an emergency band-aid. It introduced TCP to dynamically change keys per packet and a message integrity code to stop tampering.
But because it was designed to run on legacy WK hardware, it still relied on the fundamentally flawed RC4 cipher. So it's better, but still crackable over time.
Which brings us to the gold standard, stage 3, WPA2 using AES CCMP. This is your bank vault.
The undeniable answer for the quiz.
Yes, CCMP, which stands for Counter Mode Cipher Blockchaining Message Authentication Code Protocol, entirely replaces RC4 with the advanced encryption standard. It provides robust data integrity, significantly larger key sizes, and is computationally secure against modern brute forcing.
Provided the passphrase is long enough, of course. But yes, if the quiz intel asks which protocol provides the absolute highest level of security, CCMP is the undeniable answer.
But having a bank vault doesn't really matter if everyone in the company shares the exact same combination. Next, slide 6, titled Proving Identity, Personal versus Enterprise. WPA2 Personal uses a pre-shared key, or PSK, one global password for everyone.
Great for your house, terrible for a business. If we connect this to the bigger picture, relying on a PSK in a corporate environment is an operational hazard. If a single employee leaves the company under bad terms, that global password is now a critical vulnerability. To secure the network, IT has to change the PSK and manually update every single device, printer, and server across the entire campus.
Which is completely unscalable.
It's a nightmare. So the alternative is WPA2 Enterprise. This leverages the 802.1x standard and extensible authentication protocol, or EAP, to communicate with a Radius server.
Okay, so how does that work in practice?
It shifts the paradigm. Instead of the access point holding a single password, it acts as a bouncer, passing credentials back to a centralized directory like Active Directory. Every user has their own unique username and password. If someone leaves, you just revoke their specific directory account. The rest of the network is entirely unaffected.
I want you to think about the mechanics of that for a second. In a massive corporate environment, how does utilizing a centralized Radius server shift the burden of authentication away from the access point itself? And why is that crucial?
It separates the wireless hardware from the identity management. The AP just facilitates the conversation. It doesn't make the security decisions.
Got it. So our attacker knows the target, they see the WPA2 encryption, and they know it's a tough nut to crack. What's their next move? Let's flip to slide 7, titled The Attacker's Playbook, Scouting the Perimeter. This covers Wi-Fi discovery or footprinting.
The recon phase.
Exactly. They could do this passively, using a sniffer to silently log traffic without ever transmitting a single packet, or actively by sending probe requests to force APs to respond.
The slide highlights war driving and GPS mapping tools like Weijili, which is this massive online database of plotted access points globally. And here's where the exam will actively try to trick you regarding the attacker's intent.
The quiz intel.
Right. War driving is not a direct exploit, it is strictly reconnaissance. The objective is logging BSSIDs, mapping geographic coordinates, and identifying weak encryption protocols. It is not about instantly stealing bank account numbers.
Right, the scouting phase is purely informational gathering. But once they've mapped those vulnerabilities, they launch the assault. Moving right along to slide 8, titled Infiltration Tactics and Disguises. This slide visually contrasts two distinctly different MC-based attacks, MV spoofing and MC flooding.
Very different mindsets here.
Yeah. Every network card has a hard-coded MC address. Spoofing is shown as a hacker in a disguise mask. It's a surgical strike. The attacker uses software to temporarily change their MC address to mimic a trusted device, like a network printer, quietly slipping past the network's MC filters.
MC flooding, on the other hand, is a sledgehammer. Visually, it's represented as a fire hose on the slide. This is a brute force denial of service, or DDoS attack. The attacker blasts the network switch with thousands of fake MC addresses in seconds.
It's just overwhelming it.
Exactly. The goal is to overflow the switch's content addressable memory, or CAM table. When that table fills up, the switch panics, fails open, and degrades into a simple hub. It starts broadcasting all sensitive traffic to every single port, allowing the attacker to just capture everything.
Contrast those two mindsets for a moment. Why would an attacker choose the quiet, surgical disguise of MC spoofing versus the loud, destructive noise of a MC flood?
It all depends on whether they want to silently persist on the network or cause immediate chaotic damage to intercept a specific data stream. Stealth versus chaos.
But there's an even more insidious way to capture data without attacking the switch at all. This brings us to slide 9, titled The Threat from Within. Rogue APs. A rogue AP is any unauthorized access point physically installed inside the corporate infrastructure.
And often this isn't even malicious.
Really?
Yeah, it's just an employee plugging a cheap budget router into their office wall jack because the Wi-Fi in their corner of the building is spotty. But inadvertently, they've just bypassed all corporate firewalls.
Oh, wow. So they create the hole themselves.
Right. But the malicious variant of this is the evil twin. An attacker configures a rogue AP with the exact same SSID and encryption type as the legitimate corporate network to eavesdrop.
And the mechanism that makes this so devastating is the promiscuous lure. Client device is your phone, your laptop. They are aggressively programmed to seek out the strongest possible signal to maintain connectivity.
So the attacker simply broadcasts their evil twin with a massively amplified signal. The victim's device sees the familiar name, sees the stronger signal, and automatically drops the corporate connection to attach to the attacker.
And the user is completely unaware they are now routing all their traffic through a hostile device.
Completely blind to it.
Here's where it gets really interesting. How do we hunt these things down? Let's look at slide 10, titled Hunting Rogues in the Terminal. We're looking at a screenshot of the Kali Linux terminal running arrow-dumping WLP10 Mana. You don't just need to know the command, you need to know how to read this matrix of data to spot the anomalies.
Let's break down the clues for the exam. Look at the Essadude column on the far right. You'll notice an entry that literally just says length, 0.
Yeah, I see that.
That is an immediate red flag indicating a hidden network waiting to be revealed. The AP is broadcasting, but it has stripped its name from the beacon frames. Secondly, look at the PWR, or power column.
Right. The corporate APs are sitting comfortably around a 30 to negative 50 decibel level.
But then you see an AP named Coffee Shop showing an abnormally high power rating of negative 90. In the context of RF analysis, that severe anomaly indicates a rogue device intentionally cranking its transmission power to overpower the legitimate network and execute that promiscuous lure.
The terminal doesn't lie.
You just have to know which columns reveal the manipulation.
So if the attacker successfully lures a victim, what is the actual payload? Moving to slide 11, titled Packet Sniffing Perils, the Unencrypted Truth. This is a packet capture from Wireshark. The filter applied at the top is http.request.method, POST, which isolates the specific traffic where a user is submitting data to a website, like a login portal.
Look at the raw hex and ASCII DOM at the bottom of the capture. There is a massive red flag here. The form items explicitly show username equals brubble@bedrock.com and password equals stcirno@addit.
Right there in plain text.
Absolute plain text. When you face this quiz intel on the exam, the distractor answers will try to draw your attention to mismatched checksums or sequence numbers or unverified ports. Ignore them entirely. If you see the specific output, your biggest security concern is that clear text passwords are being transmitted freely over the network for any passive sniffer to harvest.
Okay, we've seen the attacker's entire life cycle. How do we actually stop this? Let's shift gears to defense on slide 12, titled The Defender's Playbook, Step 1. It shows a blueprint of a corporate office overlaid with heat maps, because proper security starts before any hardware is even plugged in.
This is a guaranteed test concept regarding the first countermeasure. When implementing a brand new wireless infrastructure, the very first security step is utilizing a Wi-Fi predictive planning tool.
Before buying anything.
Exactly. You must mathematically calculate optimal AP placement, factor in how concrete versus dry wall absorbs the RF signal, and map the predicted coverage cells. You cannot pen test a network you haven't built yet.
Now on slide 13, titled Active Defense and Penetration Testing. The network is built and optimized. To protect it dynamically, the slide highlights WIPS and wireless intrusion prevention systems and detection systems. These are dedicated sensors that continuously sweep the RF spectrum to auto-block unauthorized MES addresses and evil twins.
But automated sensors have blind spots. They catch known signatures and simple misconfigurations. That's why you must understand the difference in testing frequencies here. Vulnerability scans should be run continuously, but a full wireless penetration test where a human actively attempts to break the WPA2 four-way handshake encryption and capture data that should be conducted annually.
Why must a truly robust security posture rely on both the automated continuous WIPS monitoring and the manual annual penetration testing?
Because an algorithm only knows what it has been programmed to look for,
Okay.
a human tester actively exploits psychology and finds the unexpected gaps between the rules.
We are almost at the end. Slide 14 is titled The Distractor Minefield. The quiz creators are incredibly clever at using technically accurate statements to answer the wrong question. Let's do a dynamic back and forth and navigate these traps rapidly. First up, extenders versus APs.
Do not fall for it. Extenders just repeat an existing signal. Access points actually bridge the data.
The second trap, hiding the SSID.
It's always a trap answer. It reduces security by forcing your mobile clients to actively probe and expose themselves to sniffers.
Third, spoofing versus flooding.
Understand the intent. Spoofing is a stealth disguise. Flooding is a destructive denial of service attack.
And the final trap, war-driving intent.
The goal is finding vulnerabilities and logging BSS IDs. It is not an instant bank heist.
So what does this all mean? Finally, we arrive at slide 15, titled The Ultimate Quiz Exploit Sheet. Let's synthesize the undeniable takeaways. Rapid fire. Budget AP for a small startup.
Software-based access point.
Protocol with the absolute highest tier of cryptographic security.
CCMP.
Before you buy hardware, the very first countermeasure.
Wi-Fi predictive planning tool.
Oh, and if they ask about setting up ad hoc mobile internet,
That's just a hotspot.
where does a rogue AP physically sit?
Physically within the company infrastructure.
You're in the terminal. What command exposes a hidden AP?
Arrow dumping, looking for link 0.
You filter a Wireshark capture by HTTP POST? What is the glaring danger?
Clear text passwords.
And visually identifying the hardware antennas.
The Yagi has parallel prongs, and the parabolic is the curved dish.
You have just absorbed a massive, highly technical download of wireless security intel. By mastering these fundamental concepts, you ensure you don't just pass a test, but actually understand the digital airwaves around you.
This raises an important question, though, something for you to explore on your own. As we rapidly move toward a future of quantum computing and artificial intelligence, how will static encryption standards like WPA2 and AES hold up against algorithms capable of guessing millions of passphrases in the blink of an eye? Will the bank vault of today become the rusted lock of tomorrow?
That is a fascinating and slightly terrifying horizon to keep your eyes on. Keep questioning the infrastructure around you, keep exploring those invisible airwaves, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.